Hello, Namaskar and Adab to all my friends from your friend astrologer and guide Irfan, once more with you from your very own channel Astro Assurance. In our lives we make many choices, we make many decisions. Some of the decisions go south or they don't work out, and with some of them we may be really in a big quagmire, we may be in a big problem. We may attract more challenges rather than gains because of that wrong decision making. And not all those choices can we backtrack on. We can't let go of those decisions, and if we have to let go, many a times it is difficult to backtrack. There may be a lot of emotions loss, even money loss or time loss, which I feel is a very important commodity or entity in our lives. So where do we go wrong, especially with our decisions? We either go wrong in our romantic liaisons, or who we end up getting married to or get into a committed relationship with, or getting into a wrong educational qualification only to backtrack and then get into another right one, or we make a wrong choice of investments, or we make a wrong choice of getting into a wrong brand, wrong company, or choosing the wrong role even if the company is good. Sometimes based on what is the remuneration, the company is good, the brand is good, we end up making those choices and then later on we may regret. I have many instances where a certain Mary would have come back to me and said, I made a wrong decision, I married that a-hole Jack, that was such a wrong decision in my life. Or sometimes a Jack may come to me and may say, it was such a wrong decision to be with Elena is such a B. So why is it that sometimes we go wrong on our decision makings only to later on lose? And we may lose emotions, we may lose our peace, we may lose our tranquility, and we may lose our happiness. And to backtrack some decisions, especially those are connected with emotions, becomes very, very difficult. Also to backtrack or to change or to work over big losses in terms of money or time, or getting into a wrong job. And so we have now a history of getting into 2 or 3 wrong brands, choosing wrong roles, not following our educational qualification. All those decisions we would have taken. But what is it that makes us or helps us to take the right decisions? Because many times this is what we even consult others for, whether it is astrological consultation or going to a wise person to ask, maybe your father or your teacher or a mentor, which job to take, which job not to take, or going to a friend and asking, especially a close friend, maybe a wise friend, that should I go with Jack, should I go with Lisa, should I go with John, whoever. So sometimes we depend on wise counsel also outside. But first, those choices, those decisions should come from within, and that validation should come from outside. We can't always depend on others to choose a spouse for us, or to choose a job for us, or to choose an educational qualification. What helps us to take those right decisions? So firstly, how do we make right decisions? We first depend on information, data. Whenever we need to make a choice, for example, we need to make a choice about an educational qualification, and we will see whether your own aptitude is for that or not, whether you are strong in that particular subject or not. If somebody wants you to do engineering, say for example your parents advise you, guide you to take engineering, you feel you don't have the aptitude or you don't have the interest in that, you may say it's not practical for me to take that, it is not logical for me to take that because I'm not interested in that. The other thing is, we also depend on, after we have information, we have data, we also depend upon our emotions. How do we feel about something? If we don't feel right about something, usually we end up not taking that decision. So first comes logic and data. We are mostly guided, especially in today's world, less by emotions. We look at some data which should tell us that this decision is right, and then to be backed by the right emotion, the right feelings about that. Which means that which are the 2 planets involved here? The 2 planets which are involved here are Mercury and Moon. And why is it Mercury and Moon? Which is the house which is given to us as more free will, more willpower given to us, more free enterprise, self-enterprise? It is the 3rd house, and the 3rd house has Gemini energies, which means a duality of mind also. It is also the house of communication, the sign of communication, but it is also ruled by Mercury, which means sometimes we may not be very sure of what decision to take, what not to take. But Mercury is the planet of logic, practicality, data, analysis. So we depend on the Mercury. But which planet do we depend on to give us the right feeling? What gives us to make us feel emotionally connected with a person, with a car, with a house, with a job? It is the planet Moon, which tells us that, okay, I feel right about this person, I feel right about this decision, so I may want to go with it, or I'm in love with this person, I love this car. So we use these terms: love, I love this company, I love this man, I love this car, I love this house, I love this color, I love this brand. So we go with the word love because we are attaching an emotion, how we feel about that car, how we feel about a color, how we feel about a certain brand. So we end up making a choice based on a Mercury and a Moon. However, there is one third entity which is involved, which actually ends up telling us whether the decision was right or not. And this is the third corner of the triangle. And I keep saying this, and I've said this in many videos, there are three mind planets given to us. One is Mercury, one is the Moon, and one is Jupiter. And Jupiter is the one which tells us what is the wise thing to do. Even when we have a lot of information, we think this is a certain decision is a practical decision, it also makes us feel right. We may also check back, which we should do if we don't, that is this a wise thing to do? Is it the right thing to do? And if we are just led by data, sometimes we may take the wrong decision. It is like somebody has robbed something, then we say the right thing is to hand the person over to the cops. Logical thing, practical thing to do. However, if the person is a teenager, young boy, then it may not be the right thing to do, the practical thing to do, the logical thing to do. Though a lot of people may say, no, it is. Then the right thing, wise thing to do would be to counsel the boy, to talk to the boy, tell him that, see, this is, maybe get the person scared through cops rather than registering a case, telling the cop, just scare this boy a little bit, he's a teenager, if he's a little scared, he'll understand that he may run into the wrong books of law, he may refrain from it. So you may use your wisdom to be able to handle certain decisions rather than use too much logic. And here a certain bit of emotions are also involved. You may feel it's a teenager, you may also be a parent, you may also have young brothers or sisters, or you may have young cousins or even young friends who you feel for. So the wise thing to do is not always the logical thing or practical thing to do. So many times the wise thing to do is also to check back whether decisions have been right or wrong. And Jupiter helps us in making the wise decision, the right choices. The right choices may not always be being led by emotion or being led by logic. But how do we know that we are taking the right decisions in our lives? Firstly, to check back in which area have we been regularly making the wrong decision. For example, you may say that I seem to be doing the right thing about my job, I seem to be doing the right thing about my educational qualification, I seem to be doing the right thing about my investments, but about my emotions, about my relationships, I tend to make the most wrong decisions. And other people, I feel, those people I know, sometimes they may not have the best of jobs, they may not have the best of educational qualifications, they may not have the best of looks, but they seem to be very happy in their relationship. Their relationships are with good people usually, and their relationships are usually longer lasting than mine. At least they don't end up on such a bitter note that mine tend to end up. So there is a wisdom also in that decision making. I remember a couple who they have been consulting me for almost 15 years now. And they started to consult me when I think the couple, the age gap was big. The girl must have been in her early 20s, which means she must be 24, 25, and the guy was almost close to 40 years. And so when they came to me, I asked them, how did you guys come together? So the girl told me we met in college. So I said, how can you meet in college? She said, yeah, he was my teacher. He was almost 15, 16 years my senior when I met him. And so I thought, how could this be the right thing? And maybe I thought the girl may realize later on that, or rethink whether I made the right decision. And so maybe the relationship may or may not be long lasting. But it's been almost 15-16 years now that the couple seems to be still together, and they're going very strong. They still get in touch with me every now and then, and they seem to be pretty happy. They have a family and they are very sorted, and they have a big social group, and they have no qualms. So I remember asking the woman, the lady, now she's of course a woman, a few years back, that how did you know that this guy was the right guy for you? He was the right person for you. So she told me something which I never forgot after that. She said that when I was in my teenage years, I also dated a lot of boys, and I used to usually hang out with boys who either my age or 1 or 2 years my senior or 1 or 2 years my junior, but I had very bad experiences, and in most of them there were things which I liked a lot, but there were also many things which I didn't like. So I ended up marrying this person because I felt he had all the right things I liked, and he had those problems, those challenges, those weaknesses which I could tolerate. So she said if there were certain things in him which I could not tolerate, which I could not stand, then the relationship would not have worked out. So only when I met him and I befriended him, and I realized he had all the right things that I really liked in a person, I wanted it to be in my man, and those things that I really abhorred, he had none of them, and he had those challenges, those weaknesses. For some others it may not be so good, that I could be okay with, and so I ended up marrying this guy, and so we are very happy. So sometimes it is also about using the right emotions and the right logic, or a mix of both, which our Jupiter gives us. And so that's why it's very important to check from a Jupiter how far are Mercury and Moon placed in a horoscope. Why? Which is the Multigon sign of Jupiter? It is Sagittarius. And which is the house that Cancer sign represents? The 4th house, which means it is the 8th house from the Sagittarius sign. Cancer sign being the 8th sign from the Sagittarius sign means many times our emotions may get the better of us and make us take the wrong choices, make unwise decisions, because Cancer sign is 8th from Sagittarius sign, which means the biggest obstacles to wise decision making, to true happiness, may be our emotions. We emotionally getting into something, and those becoming an obstacle to wise decision, obstacles to happiness. Secondly, which is the Multigon sign of Mercury? The Multigon sign of Mercury is the Virgo sign. Virgo sign is the 10th sign from the Sagittarius sign, which means that taking wise decisions is a karma, doing a duty is a karma, and doing a duty, doing our actions should be based on wisdom, that the right karma is to take wise decisions. And Virgo sign is also the sign of serving, so the decision should also be based on, does it serve both the person and you? If the decision that you're taking is not serving either you or the other person, then there is a challenge, which means the first step towards decision making should be logic, data, and you should not completely take an emotional decision, because Cancer sign is 8th from the Sagittarius sign. However, in which sign does Jupiter get exalted in? Jupiter gets exalted in the Cancer sign, which means the first step should be based on a karma, a duty, a responsibility, and based on logic, based on data. But the final decision should be taken based on how you feel. So if you don't have the right data, right information, and if you don't think something is practical, something is logical, something may not work, don't take an emotional decision. But after you feel everything is practical, logical, it is right, it checks all the boxes, then see how you feel about something. If you feel right about it, then go about and taking the decision, because Jupiter gets exalted in Cancer, which means after you check all the boxes of information, logic, facts, everything, then depending on your emotions, depending on your gut feeling, depending on how you feel about it, is the right thing to do, which is the second step or the last step after you check all the boxes of logic, data, and everything else. So this means that the biggest impediment to wise decisions could be that if your Moon or your Mercury are placed 6th or 8th from your Jupiter, if Moon is placed, for example, 6th from Jupiter, you may end up taking decisions which become inimical to you later. So some relationships turn out to be inimical to you, as if you're with an enemy, the person is an enemy to your happiness, the person is an enemy to your peace, the person is an enemy to your tranquility. Or say Mercury is 8th to Jupiter, then the decision making becomes an obstacle to your growth, becomes an obstacle to your tranquility, becomes an obstacle to your development, to your happiness. So in your horoscope, check either if Moon or Mercury is 6th or 8th from Jupiter, you may end up taking not so right decision. Secondly, also check which decision you have been regularly taking wrong or where you have been going wrong, and then check what are the malefics involved, or a Mercury or Moon connected to that area of life which you are making regular wrong decisions on, and if they are 6th or 8th from your Jupiter or connected to even the Dusthanas. So this is more important for the girls, that sometimes they think they're taking the logical decisions. Jack is handsome, Jack is so good looking, many of the girls are chasing Jack, and Jack has proposed to me, Jack said he likes me, so I want to go with Jack. So it is the right thing to do, it is the practical thing to do. He's so good looking, he's an engineer, he's so sharp, he's so intelligent, girls love him, they chase him, and he has proposed to me, so going with Jack is right. So sometimes it's important to check whether you are making the wrong decision based on where your Mercury or your Moon are. If your Mercury or your Moon are, or both are in Kendra to Jupiter, not involving the Dusthanas, either by these planets being placed on the Dusthanas or ruling any of the Dusthanas, then you can be safer unless other malefics are also involved. So make the right decision based on your logic and then how you feel. The guys, where do the guys make wrong decisions? The guys make wrong decisions when their Venus or the Sun goes 6th or 8th from their Jupiter. Why? What do guys chase? Guys chase a beautiful girl, good looking girl, a sexy girl, or they chase a beautiful car, a sports car. They usually go for looks or what the other boys aspire for, the good skirt or the good boot, for example. So guys usually chase Venus because they are associated with Venus, with Shukranu, or they chase power, influence, growth, development, the height of power and influence, which is the Sun, which is represented by the Sun. So usually guys, the boys usually go wrong on either the Venus or Sun being not placed right from their Jupiter, 6th or 8th from their Jupiter, and the girls usually go wrong when their Moon or their Mercury are placed 6th or 8th from the Jupiter and involving some other doshas, aspects, conjunctions also. So be very careful where their placements are. Secondly, especially if any of these are either your birth nakshatra lord or your lagna lord or even your 7th lord, because 7th house lord is the complementary to your lagna, then too you could end up making wrong decisions. So it's very, very important that Moon or Mercury or Jupiter either not your lagna lord or your 7th lord or your nakshatra lord. Then you could be taking more wiser decisions, more right decisions, especially if these are not debilitated, these are not combusted, or they are not in a bad yoga. And similarly for the boys where Venus or Sun or Jupiter are not either the nakshatra lord or the birth lord or the 7th lord, and they are not combusted or they are not debilitated. And lastly, check if Rahu gets involved either with your Moon or Mercury or your Jupiter, either by place with any of these, or for boys either place either with the Venus or with Sun or with Jupiter, and of course for the girls either place with Moon, Mercury or Jupiter. Then Rahu could mislead you in taking the wrong decisions and take you on the wrong track. So friends, check in your horoscopes how your Jupiter, your Venus or your Sun is placed, and girls, check in your horoscopes how your Moon, your Mercury or your Jupiter are placed, because how they are talking to each other, how they are synergizing with each other will go a long way in you making the right decisions. And lastly, a quote which I remember, and which is a good quote. It says, it goes like this: look not for beauty or for fairness of skin, but look for the heart which is loyal within, because beauty may fade and skin grow old, but a heart that is loyal will never grow old. So guys, see you next time. Please like this video, please share this video, and if you're looking for a personal consultation for me, please reach out to me at the link given below. Until some other time with some other video, this is your friend astrologer and guide Irfan signing off. Ciao.